Because we called in a good friend of the show. He would give an Emmy to if he could. Candice Cruz, entertainment expert. Hello to talk about all things
compliment
Emmy.
I've ever had.
If I could give it to you right now, I would. Here you go.
Thank you so much.
And world peace.
Oh, Candice. Well, let's start with that because what a funny moment from the Emmys.
I mean, honestly, I was kind of nervous about Cedric. It kind of felt a little out of left field for him to be the host. I know he's hosted a ton of shows. He is no stranger to the hosting realm, but I actually really enjoyed him as the host. All the bits, the bit you just saw, the opening bit, he really did keep the levity of the show. And I think that that's something that we needed coming back to award season and in person.
Yeah, his therapist voice is what got Allison. What is going on here, Allison? Are you okay?
I know.
That's what gets me. But Candice, you know, a big part of the story that I saw trending also was about how there was an overwhelming number of historic, diverse nominations, but no actors of color won in any major acting categories. Candice, I feel like you and I have had this conversation at least 8 times in award season. How are we still having it? How does this happen?
I don't know. I really do agree with you, Ashley. We've had this conversation way too many times. I'm sure that people are tired of hearing it, and I'm sure that people are tired of addressing it, but it needs to be said. And I think that, yes, we did have a monumental year. They did have one of the most amount of nominees of people of color, and yet it still didn't, I don't want to say it didn't make a difference because I do think that everyone that did win obviously had incredible performances. I don't want to knock anybody, but I do think that this was the year for the Emmys kind of to change the narrative, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you have people of color, you have LGBTQ community, you have, MJ from Pose, you have Billy Porter, you also have Emma Corrin from The Crown, who's the first openly non-binary actor to be nominated. You have so many different monumental things that could have been done that just weren't recognized. And again, it is a voting population from the Academy. But I think that's the bigger question is how do we change the dialogue within the Academy and those that have the place of power to be voting to change.
And can
I
you
think these
explain
articles
that?
And these conversations are great.
You brought up a good point. Can you explain the voting and like how winners are chosen? Because I feel like lots of people don't understand that part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with SAG, it is different. It's everyone that's a part of the guild. But when it comes to Emmys and when it comes to Oscars, there are academies that people have to actually fit credentials in a certain amount of years and a certain amount of different starting points or different points that they have to meet in order to be accepted or even invited into the Academy. So it is a very small pool. And also just to point out that Academy is not extremely diverse. So I think that's also a conversation that should be noted is that we need to have more people of color within the different academies for different award shows so that these can, make these changes.
Yeah. But we should talk about this woman of color, Michaela Coel. She became the first Black woman to take home an Emmy for outstanding writing. Yes, it was in a limited or anthology series or movie for her HBO drama, I May Destroy You. Now listen, of course, this powerful message that she has to writers.
Write the tale that scares you, that makes you feel uncertain, that isn't comfortable. I dare you. In a world that entices us to browse through the lives of others to help us better determine how we feel about ourselves, and to, in turn, feel the need to be constantly visible, for visibility these days seems to somehow equate to success. Do not be afraid to disappear from it, from us, for a while, and see what comes to you in the silence.
And Candice, how did you feel watching that speech? Because it's powerful.
Oh, I was already starting to tear up. Like, it's so powerful, and I think that it's so necessary right now for anyone that's a creative, anyone in this world right now. We're so constantly like having to show up. We're supposed to show what we're doing for it to matter, quote unquote. But like she said, sometimes you have to take that moment of silence and that peace and really listen to yourself and the stories that are needing and wanting to be told. And I think she did an incredible job with this show. She needed to be recognized. She's been nominated across the board this entire award season and finally got the award that she deserved. I mean, even if you look back and watch the show again, you can see that moment of just awe and shock when she got announced that she was the winner.
Yes.
And for it to be such a big story. And I also heard through a lot of other interviews that she actually had to Google how to write a series. Like, if that doesn't tell you that anything is possible, and that I just keep watching it over and over because I get goosebumps every time. I think it's something that we all need to hear. I mean, I need to hear it.
We need to all disappear sometimes.
Yeah, and I love that, like, what I saw about this moment was, like, when it was announced, because obviously everyone loves those reaction videos, and she even in that moment had to take a second. And, like, her friend is that, like, well, a co-host or co-star, you're my co-host, was sitting there, like, you know, talking to her, like, okay, like, are you good? Like, we gotta, you know.
We gotta get up there.
She's like, okay, yeah, now I'm good. And she went and obviously was amazing, but, like, it just shows that, like, you can take your moment whenever you need it, you know? So I love that she taught that lesson, but also showed it too. But the video that I saw, Candice, that made me laugh because it made people uncomfortable was Seth Rogen. This man is a gem. So he had people raising eyebrows. He brought up COVID protocols and was like, are we supposed to be in here right now, all these people together? Let's take a look at what he said.
Let me start by saying there is way too many of us in this little room. What are we doing? They said this was outdoors. It's not. They lied to us. We're in a hermetically sealed tent right now. I would not have come to this.
So, Candice, it's funny because you don't know if the man is joking or telling the truth. When you watched it, was he joking, or did he really feel like I should probably slide out the back door here?
Listen, I think any stand-up has a little bit of element of truth to it. That's what makes it funny.
Right.
So, I mean, he wasn't lying. But I think, you know, I will say living out here on the West Coast, there are a lot of protocols that you have to follow, and everyone is really trying to do their best possible, whether it's getting constantly tested, vaccinated, whatever it may be, doing every type of protocol that they can to keep everyone safe. I think that they did do that, and they showed a string of that and left the breadcrumbs throughout the whole show being like, listen, we know what we're doing, but we're being safe about it.
Just really quick, we have to talk about this because last time I talked to you, you were like, Tabitha, you have to watch Ted Lasso. And Ted Lasso and The Crown cleaned up, right?
Completely cleaned up. They cleaned house. It was very much, it gave me a reminder of a specific show last year that swept, but Ted Lasso and The Crown really did sweep, and I think that it was well-deserved. I know there's a lot of other conversations that we've had earlier in this show, but I do think that everyone that did win the award really, really showed up. Like, Ted Lasso is just the creme de la creme, and then obviously The Crown, I already talked about that and how much I have a soft spot for that show. So if you haven't watched either of those, that should be the first on your list, and clearly the Academy and everyone else agrees.
Candice Cruz, we love having you here. We love people watching us with you. We appreciate you so much. And here's the Emmy we gave you when we started this segment. We love you so much, Candice. Thank you,
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
We'll be right back.
See ya.
At NBCLX, we see you.
Soy extraordinaria.
Changemaker.
Trailblazer.
I deserve to be seen and represented on screen. Mi historia es tu historia.
We're all connected.
Watch LX News on cable, broadcast, and streaming on all your favorite platforms.
I'm Dr. Lakeisha Simmons. 4 years ago, I was a single mom, and I was living paycheck to paycheck. That's when I downloaded the free Personal Capital app, and it changed my financial future. I linked all of my accounts, and I instantly saw where I stood. I was able to track my budgets and spending and see how that affected my net worth. Now I use the retirement planner, and I monitor my entire portfolio. 4 years later, my nest egg has grown, and I'm ready to retire.
Download the free app or go to personal